Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
There's so many falsehoods out there. My own mother was calling me saying, did we lose the battery factory when it said we don't have power here? And so there's an intention because of the political campaign to weaponize comments.
It's also a means for the little children to meet other Filipino kids that they did not know before.
12 weeks after we launched our business, so it was the end of November last year, we got a random DM on Instagram, and it was from a producer from the hit game show on CBS, Let's Make a Deal.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight on the election trail. Ontario PC leader Doug Ford made a campaign stop in Tecumseh today. He reiterated promises for Windsor-Essex, but Ford was pulled back into the confusion surrounding LG Chem. There are concerns the company won't build a plant here due to lack of electrical power, and the Liberals and NDP trying to make it a local election issue, painting it as a failure by Doug Ford. Dale Molnar was at the event today and joins me now live in studio. Dale, what is the latest political fallout over LG Chem?
Well, Kat, this issue around LG Chem has become so muddled, and every party is trying to gain some political points from it. So you'll recall earlier this month, Invest Windsor-Essex reported that LG Chem, which would be a supply plant to EV battery production, was concerned there would not be enough electrical power to operate the plant here. Now, to be clear, losing the LG Chem plant would not prevent the Stellantis EV plant from operating here. Those are two separate investments. We asked LG Chem about the power issue, and it said there was no decision yet whether to locate here. A company spokesperson writes in an email, no decision has been made at this time, and anything to the contrary is speculation. However, today, Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca laid blame at the feet of the PC party and Doug Ford for failing to be able to supply the 15 megawatts of power needed for the plant. Del Duca says the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, or IESO, warned the provincial government in 2019 that an urgent need existed to provide more power to this region and identified a growing energy shortage.
Is that it was 3 years ago, when the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, ISO, wrote a report, published the report in 2019 that said the Windsor-Essex region actually had a challenge and would have a growing challenge with its electricity requirements. For 3 years, Doug Ford did nothing.
Now, the Liberals are now asking the IESO to conduct and release an independent review into the warnings they say Ford ignored. Kat?
Dale, when Ford was in town this afternoon, what did he have to say about it?
Well, Doug Ford was electioneering and pressing the flesh at Laval Tool and Tecumseh, and he told me he didn't have any definitive word on whether LG Chem was coming here or not. But he has said all along that there will be enough power available for LG Chem to operate here if it chooses to come, and he shot back at Del Duca's comments.
And I find it pretty ironic coming from Stephen Del Duca, part of the Del Duca Win Liberals that drove 300,000 jobs out of this province. And looking at the auto sector, they decimated Windsor, they decimated Oshawa and Oakville. They were all leaving. All the auto manufacturers are leaving. Now they came back and invested $14 billion. And as for the grid, we invested $1 billion. We're doing that on 5 transmission lines coming here. But boy, I'll tell you, that's pretty rich of Del Duca Win Liberals to talk about energy as they drove up energy costs, the highest in North America, and drove every single company out of this province.
I think it's fair to say there's an election campaign. The election will be held this Thursday, and it's easy to weaponize certain comments to one's political advantage. That's exactly what you see happening here with Mr. Del Duca.
Now, we should point out that Mayor Dilkens there has come out in support of Doug Ford. He, along with Windsor-Tecumseh PC candidate Andrew Dowie and Tecumseh Mayor Gary McNamara, were at the event this afternoon. Now, according to NDP candidate Gemma Gray-Hall, Andrew Horvath and NDP are promising to expand our hydro capacity, increase affordable renewables, improve grid-scale storage, and make major grid interconnections to convince LG Chem that Windsor-Essex is where they need to be. Kat?
Thanks for this, Dale. CBC's Dale Molnar live in studio for us tonight. There are now just 2 days of campaigning left. Not a lot of time, and that means the parties will be throwing everything they've got at the ridings with the closest races. Let's bring in our senior reporter, Mike Crawley, for more on this. Mike, how do you see things shaping up between now and Thursday night?
Well, Katerina, I think it's safe to say, based on all of the polling that's out there, realistically, we're down to one of two scenarios on election night. Either Doug Ford and the PCs win another majority, or they just fall short and end up with a minority. Now, you've probably seen websites that average out the polls and project what they expect the results to be. They are all suggesting that the most likely outcome is a PC majority. But it's important to remember with these sites, and that includes the CBC's own poll tracker, that these are forecasts. So it is not a certainty that the PCs get that majority. Still, the Liberals and the NDP know that they have their work cut out for them if they want to stop it from happening. And in particular, they really need votes to swing their way in the ridings where they are neck and neck with the PCs. And that is why you're hearing messages like this.
Here in Don Valley West and right across Ontario, there is only one way to stop Doug Ford. And the only way to stop Doug Ford is to vote for the Ontario Liberals.
On the contrary, it's the NDP that has momentum right now. It's the NDP who has been talking about healthcare for this entire campaign and connecting with healthcare workers. But most importantly, people remember that with 15 years of the Liberals, they broke the healthcare system.
Now, both of these leaders are exaggerating a little bit here. It is simply not true to say that the only way to stop Ford is to vote for the Liberals, because there are ridings in which an NDP candidate actually does have the best chance of winning, and there are also ridings in which the Liberal candidate is best placed to defeat the PCs. And the Liberals sure are not happy that the NDP still seems to be targeting some of those ridings.
And Michael, what does all this mean for Ford and the PCs?
Well, they would clearly benefit from this kind of vote splitting among the Liberals and the NDP in close races. And the PC campaign team is now putting a big emphasis on the ridings where they are the most vulnerable, or where they think they're within striking distance of winning. And that could mean maybe blanketing those ridings with ads, sending in more volunteers, or sending in the leader.
We're traveling all around the province. We're off to Windsor, and we're going to make sure we shore up some votes down there. These are regions, and I'll just say this, that have never voted PC in 70, 80, 90 years. Now, people are voting PC.
And that tells you just how strongly Doug Ford and the PCs have their eyes on Windsor-Tecumseh and Essex as well. Katerina, one possible scenario that we could see on election night is that the PCs take less of the popular vote than the 40% that they got in the last election, but actually end up with more seats. So an even bigger majority, potentially, for Doug Ford.
Thanks for this, Mike. That is our Queen's Park reporter, Mike Crawley. Time now for another round of Voters Corner. Today's topic, education reform. You spoke with us about taking a different approach to supporting students when they're falling behind, and more programs for students with special needs.
My son is autistic, so like education is number one, and with a lot of programs, it could help out. Right now he's working or looking for an EP, and right now there's a shortage. So I'm hoping with the new election that maybe we get better programs for kids that are in need of special needs or even special equipment for schools and stuff like that. And with this school here, a lot of it, like my son's telling me, that there's a lot of the programs that he's struggling with. So hopefully that with the new election that we get more support for the parents and staff and other students that need the work that they need.
For them to reassess, reevaluate, maybe not just fail kids, but maybe notice early on that they are having troubles, or listen to the parents that, if they come in and ask, maybe you should hold my child back. They aren't, let's say, reading at even close to the grade level that they're at. And I think pushing them forward really sets them up for failure in high school, because high school fails. And grade school may not fail, but high school does fail. And these kids are going in there thinking, doesn't matter what I do, I'm just gonna pass, right? So looking at that and moving forward with that would be good.
In other local news, diagnostic imaging scans are being postponed this month at Windsor Regional Hospital. That's because the dye used to do the scans is seeing a shortage worldwide. This means any non-emergency scans will be delayed until at least end of June. That includes CTs, cardiac angiograms, and other diagnostic studies. Officials say the hospital is now receiving only half of the amount of dye needed, and it's rationing it for critical tests for things like heart attacks, strokes, or trauma. Windsor Regional officials say they were alerted about the shortage last Friday and say all hospitals in Ontario are trying to manage this. Hospital officials say the shortage is due to a major global supplier of the dye in China recently shutting down because of COVID-19. Any patients impacted will be contacted. Turning now to international news, the war in Ukraine is now into its fourth month. As the toll on lives and property climbs, there are other costs that aren't as obvious. One is the price being paid in academic and practical research. Work being done at universities and labs across Ukraine has been halted because of the fighting. But some researchers and scientists are getting out of the country, and some have come to Canada to continue their work. CBC's Julia Wong has that story.
Cell biologist Irina Ilyenko typically works at a lab in Kiev. But for the last several weeks, she's made a home at an Edmonton biotechnology company. When the war in Ukraine broke out, Ilyenko fled with her daughters to Budapest, Hungary, then to Edmonton, where she connected with Matt Anderson-Barron. He had posted online about taking in Ukrainian researchers.
If we can help out in that way, it's a no-brainer.
When she fled, Ilyenko left behind her scientific research. Now she's starting fresh.
For me, it's very important that I am here. If I will spend one more month in Canada without the work, I think for me it was absolutely, will be absolutely crashed.
The impact of war on academia is well documented. Intellectual freedom is often targeted. This was seen during the Second World War, more recently Syria, and now Ukraine.
They're taking their kids and their families if they can. They're not necessarily going to stop and move their labs. We're potentially losing any discoveries that they would have been making.
Aaron Barr is the CEO of an Alberta hemp company that works closely with the Ukrainian Institute. He's helping them move their staff and their specialized seed research to safety in Canada.
We're able to save about 4,000 pounds of their pedigree seed that they've developed over the past couple of years.
The institute in Ukraine says the war is unpredictable and they cannot risk losing their work.
And we don't know what's going to be the result of war. That's why we're looking in further and trying to find the best solution for our case.
For those forced to go, a new focus.
It is the future fields gave me a very big stage. It's like the first step for me, of course.
In a new home free of war. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
Back to local news now. Let's take a look at how diverse traditions are being kept alive in Windsor through cultural classes. First, we meet Elvira Chu. She's a teacher at the Filipino Community Center, where she's teaching kindergartners Tagalog.
They love it. They are so excited to learn even a little words like po, like when you have to greet older people, we say like kumusta po. The po is the words that we distinguish. That will be like that will be the word that we use to specify our greetings to older people. And they love that one.
Chu says children really missed her classes during the pandemic. The classes also connect the kids with others with Filipino heritage, helping them make new friends. That's something seniors at the South Asian Heritage Center can relate to as well. They've been practicing their Hindi speaking skills at the Hindi Connection Cafe. It's a virtual program that offers weekly yoga and traditional poetry classes.
We connect and we don't forget our language, which is really very important. To stay connected to your roots. So that way it is, yeah, very good. We can speak in Hindi the way we want to. Yeah, so it is good. Good. It is mainly for the health and fitness for seniors, and it is in Hindi so that all this South Asian community can really participate and they can connect and they can enjoy it also.
Turning now to a bit of a spicy story. A local hot sauce company is making a flaming appearance on the CBS game show Let's Make a Deal. The CBC's Jason Veal met up with the creators of Halo Heats to get a taste.
Just 12 weeks after we launched our business, so it was the end of November last year, we got a random DM on Instagram, and it was from a producer from the hit game show on CBS, Let's Make a Deal, with Wayne Brady. So this DM came in, and of course Jeff and I both thought it, was a scam or a joke or couldn't possibly be real. And we ended up, deciding to chat with them a little bit further to find out the legitimacy of their request. And they were looking to have a hot sauce product feature on the show. And I think they must have just searched hashtag hot sauce, and that's how they found us on Instagram. And when we were chatting with them, they said that they absolutely loved that our product was in a squeeze bottle. So it looked a lot different than a lot of the things on the market. And they also really loved our branding. That's what really stood out to them. And to them, it looked professional and it looked clean, it looked modern, and they really loved the look of it. And so they asked us to overnight 100 bottles to their studio in LA for a taping that was going to be happening that next week. And they ended up using it in that taping. They loved the look of it so much that they put it in 2 more episodes. So out of the deal, we ended up getting our product shown on 3 episodes. So it's so exciting, yeah.
So if you want, we could start you out with the spicy mango pineapple. Okay. You want to get her going?
Yeah, we'll lather it on these.
All right. Here, I'll give you one on there.
Okay.
I'll get one on here going.
And is that your hottest one, or?
Oh, they're all pretty close to the same.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
no ghost peppers thrown in the mix.
No, habanero is like the hot pepper pretty much. So it's we're not trying to kill people. We're trying to make people's lives more enjoyable.
Good. Okay, sorry. Not because of the heat. I'm just gonna go grab a drink of water really quick.
Oh.
So at first, you didn't really think, you thought it maybe was too good to be true.
Oh, 100%.
When you finally realized it was legitimate, how did you guys react to that?
We very quickly had to make a decision. So with their taping schedule, they needed the product within, I think it was 24 hours. So we did not even have time to really sleep on it. We had to make a decision very quickly if we were gonna, send out a huge amount of product. I remember we woke up the next morning and we're like, we sent sauce, that happened, right? Like, let's just wait and see if we ever see an episode of this, because it's too good to be true. We've been in business for 12 weeks at the time.
And speaking of heat, we do have a heat warning today with little relief from the heat overnight. Colette will be here after the break with more on that. Just stay with us. Welcome back. It is hot outside. In fact, there is a heat warning, and it's got some folks here in Windsor looking for ways to cool off. Our video producer, Darren DiCarlo, hit the streets to ask how you're planning on beating the heat.
Go to the gym, walk, drink a lot of water. That's all what I drink. I have a bottle waiting for me in the car. Nothing special.
I dress in smaller clothing like shorts and bathing suit tops, and I go outside and tan, and I get some lemonade from Tim Hortons and stay cool outside like that. Go swimming when there's a beach nearby, but I'm in Windsor right now, so there's not many beaches, but coming down here to the dock is nice.
Lots of water. Splash pads, we have water table in our backyard, splash pad in the backyard, sprinklers, anything, keep them outside and tire them out, you know. This is the one we go to mostly. It's closest to our house, and it's so big, so I love it. So,
what's your favorite part about the splash pad?
When I run through all the water.
This is a good time to bring in Colette Kennedy. Colette, even just looking at that splash pad was just so satisfying.
Yeah, I just remember the joy of like running through a sprinkler, or like, you know, any of that kind of thing when I was a kid. So yeah, I absolutely love that. And when we're taking a look at what those temperatures are like, you know, first of all, there's what's the thermometer say, and then there's, of course, what it feels like. So we'll just start off with that thermometer reading, and where we're holding right now, still in the low 30s at 31 for Windsor, where the reporting station is Chatham-Kent, 28, Sarnia at 30, and then some upper 20s. The Humidex values, well, mid to or creeping towards the upper 30s, so we will find tomorrow afternoon that we're likely going to be getting that Humidex value 38 to close to 40. And obviously we've got the heat warning, which I'll show you here in just a moment, but I also want to show you, yes, the sky can begin to get that kind of milky appearance to it, right? It's sort of hazy, and that's because of the moisture content that we have in the air. So we do get into some hazy conditions, but it's still generally a sunny sky. So there's the heat warning because of those Humidex values coming up. It's not just the temperatures during the day, and it's also just how warm those temperatures are in the overnight hours, so that there's not that much in terms of relief. You know, we talk about running through the sprinklers. That's great. It's, you know, good. It feels good to get some water in to keep your body comfortable and keep your temperature down, but also remember we got to drink a lot of water, extra water, and make sure you're well hydrated when we have these conditions. So that dominant ridge of high pressure, it hangs in here for another day, and then things will start to change as we get to Tuesday through the overnight. Start to see a line of storms develop, but it looks like they'll largely either die out or pull northward. Some active weather, possibly some severe storms into eastern Ontario, a risk of a few isolated stronger storms too. So overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning, we'll be watching for that activity Wednesday because of that cold front coming in here and those two air masses kind of battling it out, and that provides some lift. But know that once we get behind that, so we'll see improving conditions through the day Wednesday as we get later on, and then it becoming more comfortable too as the dew points will be dropping. But overnight tonight, winds at times a little gusty from the south, seeing that, and then they'll begin to back off. 33, we may get to 33 for that high for tomorrow. Transition day Wednesday, and then more comfortable air comes in, but looks good too with that forecast.
Yeah, nice to know a little bit of relief is on the way.
You got
Thanks
it.
for that, Colette.
No problem.
When we come back, we're going to take you to Dubai, where a woman has opened a cafe that serves food to dogs and cats. Stay with us. Welcome back. We want to tell you about a restaurant business that is going to the dogs, literally. A woman in Dubai has opened a cafe that serves food to dogs and cats, and the response suggests she is not barking up the wrong tree. Here's her story.
I just am making this kind of treats when they are puppy. And I got some of great feedback. My friends like, wow, it looks like a real meal and like this. And then one day I was thinking like there is many place for humans restaurant. And that's like, why there is no restaurant for dogs? So okay, let's make it one for them. And then yeah, and that is Happy Dog Day here.
Pet cafes, and I thought, this is a new concept. I haven't heard of this before. I'd really like to go, and I find it's really relaxing. The food looks amazing. I can't believe that it is so nutritionally good, and it's exactly the same as human food, where if you have a problem with your pet that can't have something specific, then you can tailor it so that they can enjoy it here.
I really like this place because the food is made by a nutritionist, and I think that's really good. And it's not like a treat, it's a full meal, and it's always a different menu every day.
I just love them with the unconditional love. I'm getting emotional. Yeah, so they were babies.
Love seeing that relationship and how important it is to so many. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.